Good morning, everyone. Bladen Breitreiter, incident meteorologist, here with Jasmine. And we're here to give you a weather update for the Hermit's Peak and Calf Canyon fires for Tuesday, May 17th. So we had some action yesterday. Majority of that initiated over the high terrain out here, and as it grew up and got into that upper level steering flow there, it was able to push off and track northeast. Unfortunately, we didn't get a whole lot of precipitation out of this event. What we did have was a cell that initiated down here in and around Division Charlie and Division Delta that tracked up and hit the southwest corner of the fire perimeter here. It actually ended up dropping a little bit of small hail, and it would continue to do so as it tracked northeast and got in and around Las Vegas, and it continued on to go and bother the majority of the eastern portion of the fire, which we have affectionately dubbed Alphabet Soup Country. That's Division Alpha Bravo Victor Tango. So we measured about 12 hundredths here at the Las Vegas Municipal Airport, and just kind of looking at the radar echoes that we saw, we could infer that we saw around 1/10 of an inch, perhaps up as much as 15 hundredths down here in the south zone. Now, as we get up into the north zone here, not nearly as favorable. They did have some spotty convection up there, but unfortunately, it managed to miss all of our RAWS sites, so all the different weather stations that we plugged in and around the north portion of the fire. So we didn't get any measurable precipitation out that way. The places that needed it, down along the western portion of the perimeter here, didn't see any, at least not that we saw as far as our weather station goes out there. Either way, we did have that 12 hundredths, and the way that we can look at that also, again, remember there's that thing called chance of wetting rainfall. That has to do with seeing widespread enough precipitation to actually reduce fire danger. It's a very common measurement that we use here on wildfires, and we didn't come close to that. The reason for that is because we have been in such a prolonged drought. We're in exceptional up in this country, and we need probably more like 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of precipitation, and probably several instances of that to make a dent in a lot of these larger, drier fuels along the western portion here. So that's what we got to see yesterday. We also saw some pretty erratic and gusty outflow winds ranging between 45 and 50 miles an hour. And we also saw a whole bunch of lightning. Now, the majority of that was going to be in this area here. We did see some get dropped up in here as well. So that's something we get to continue to monitor as we go in through the day today for the potential of new starts. So there are a lot of folks working together to patrol and keep taking care of that. So moving into, get rid of my magic pointy sword here. Maybe. No, I'll just hold on to it. All right, so going into today, we're going to be getting near record to record temperatures across a lot of the area here. Keep in mind, this matrix is for the south zone, but as far as our records look like, we have a record of 89 here at Las Vegas, and that was gotten in 1996 up at Angel Fire. This actually is not pulled from the Angel Fire Airport. It's pulled from one of our cooperator observer sites, and that is 76 back in 2003. So we're getting close. We're not for sure going to break any records today, but we very well might as we have some weak high pressure building to the west of us. So you'll see that immediately we start to get that really wonderful humidity that we gain from that system is going to start to get pulled out, scoured out as early as right now. I believe we were in the teens right before this. So we'll get into those single digits here very, very quickly as we go into the afternoon hours. Haynes Index, remember that is a measurement of instability and dryness. So already with the scouring out of that moisture, we're back up to a 6, which is as high as it can go because we're going to be super dry. We're going to continue to be very unstable. And our winds today, quite a bit more robust here in the south zone. And the reason for that is because we're doing a lot of work here in this upper terrain here. And so a lot of that is going to see more of those elevated winds versus what you guys will see up in the northern portion of the fire, which will be greatly reduced. So they will end up flirting with a bit of critical fire weather conditions as we go into the peak heating of the afternoon. And it will be majority westerly, which is while that moisture is getting scoured out. So take a look over here as to what is going on. So we had our trough. It's gone on. You can really see it here across the Great Plains with the simple water vapor imagery. All of those milky pinks and those bright whites, that's actually showing you convection, storms that are initiating and continuing on, moving into the Midwest there. There's one that just popped off across the, what was that? That looks like Arkansas. It's getting some action in that frame there. So getting a lot of action out east. You can see where all the water vapor is. As you look up a little bit closer to where we are, you can see we're pretty much sandwiched, right? With dry air intruding in. So the green here on this particular satellite product shows that we have upper level water vapor, no clouds, and very dry below. So that's kind of what we're seeing in addition to just plain null values here, which is the no water vapor to speak of. And you can see that we're starting to get a little bit flatter as our flow goes. So not necessarily like the ridge, not necessarily like a trough, but we're starting to get that more what we call zonal flow aloft. And the heightened winds that we have here aloft are going to kind of reduce out and slacken as this becomes the norm across the desert southwest. So we'll see that greatly reduced across here. Now going into the remainder of the week, we have a backdoor cold front, yet another one coming in tonight and into tomorrow morning. So we'll see a slight reduction there, a little bit of moisture, little bit, 3%, so not too much to write home to, right? And we'll see our winds kind of be about the same. Now, granted, keep in mind that is for the south zone. Likely a bit of a reduction as you move into the north zone up there. But we do have about 15% chance of thunder tomorrow. It's a little bit more favored up towards the north zone. They're getting into more of a 20% chance of thunder up there. But these are not looking nearly as robust as what we saw yesterday. So more likely spotty storms that kind of build up and then give up pretty quickly in their little lifetime. As we move into Thursday and Friday, that is when we're going to start to see a bit of a pattern change. So we have that kind of small area of high pressure, pretty weak high pressure, that's going to start to break down, and that's when we're going to start to see this trough come in. And remember what we think about troughs. They like wind because wind loves to run downhill. So we'll see a very stark increase in our winds on Thursday, 30 gusting to 40 out of the west. So already very dry, which means we're going to continue to see those single-digit relative humidity values. Being on the eastern portion of that trough, that's where instability loves to live, so we're not going to see a reduction in our instability there. So Thursday is just definitely going to be a heads-up day. The National Weather Service in Albuquerque had issued a fire weather watch for Thursday, and they will likely be upgrading that either tonight or tomorrow to a red flag warning. As we go into the rest of the week here, Friday things remain pretty elevated. 20 gusts 35 out of the southwest, continue to be dry. We get a little bit of reduction in temperatures there, about 5 degrees. And then as we go into Saturday, that cold front finally starts to be felt. We'll have a reduction down to 72 for our average max temperature here. It'll likely be even further reduced as you get up into the northern zone up there. That'll look more like the 60s. And we'll have an influx of moisture, not a whole lot, looking at 14, 15%, but we will have some overnight recoveries, being that they would get up into that 55, potentially 65% range. And then, of course, behind troughs like that, you usually end up with a lot of stable air. So we actually get a reduction in Haynes there down to 4, and a reduction in winds as well. So I'm going to leave you guys with that today. Hope you guys have a good one out there. Stay rock and roll, and I'll see you tomorrow.